Awesome. All right. So thank you again for joining our International Education Week Symposium. 2020 has been a challenging year. I'm sure many of you have seen the internet memes about how long 2020 has seemed and the different crises happening each month. However, even in normal times, there are challenges experienced by studying abroad. Individuals take upon themselves to travel to a new country, a new culture, and in many times to learn a new language. While this pandemic has created different challenges worldwide, I believe people are more motivated than ever to engage with and understand each other. This symposium is designed for you to learn from the experiences students have had both in the United States and abroad. And my hope is that we can learn from each other and continue to grow and develop as global learners. So throughout this symposium, we are excited to learn about the challenges, both positive and negative, that students have experienced. And again, our hope is to learn from each other. I will now introduce Ms. Karen Chipman, who is the coordinator for education abroad at Chatham.
Okay, thank you, Kate. And thank you so much to everyone who has joined us today and contributed to the symposium. I am really looking forward to hearing your study abroad reflections and discussing study abroad in challenging times with all of you. I know some of you might not have had the opportunity to study abroad yet, and we hope that you will gain insights from how our students who are presenting today have unpacked their own experiences. As the staff person at Chatham who works to send Chatham degree-seeking students on international experiences, I want to remind everyone that study abroad is always challenging, even without the addition of a global crisis like we're facing now. There are everyday difficulties due to language learning, not understanding cultural norms, being homesick, unfamiliar academic structures and interactions that you might not fully understand. And believe it or not, these are all totally normal and part of what is expected during study abroad. Despite the unique challenge of the pandemic, these everyday difficulties are still important. And as you listen to the speakers and hear their stories and perhaps reflect on your own experiences with being the other and navigating in an unfamiliar space or new environment, whether that's in a foreign country or through interacting with diverse groups in your own community, know that working through these small everyday challenges and overcoming them should give you some satisfaction. There are so many rewards that come from engaging with other cultures, from the personal connections you make to the learning that occurs in and outside the classroom. Even in the face of challenges, you are growing through this time. Acknowledge and celebrate your wins. This will build your confidence and prepare you for the future in ways you can only imagine at this time. And again, thank you so much for being here today, and I will hand it back over to Kate.
Thank you so much, Karen, for your wonderful remarks. I'd also like to introduce the other two members of the Office of International Affairs. We have Dr. Lin Feng and Ms. Sylvia Ship as on this presentation. So Lin, do you have some brief remarks?
I just want to say thank you for being here to celebrate with us. I didn't prepare a remark, but I just want to share maybe part of my personal reflection living through the pandemic. And I actually wrote a reflection, and it is posted on the blog here. And as many of you, I found my life restricted during the pandemic because we had to stay at home because of the physical confinements, because of all the barriers that we have. But then gradually, life had to go on, and we persisted in doing our work, and I professionally, as well as other students. And gradually, interestingly, I feel like my life has expanded in unexpected ways. I had opportunities to present to students, hundreds and thousands of students in Vietnam, actually, through Facebook Live. I talk with colleagues all over the world every week now. I have attended so many conference presentations, have met so many other people, way more than any normal life. So now I'm looking at the silver linings of the pandemic, and I just want to share my short reflection that I have found my life expanded in the virtual space. And tomorrow I'm organizing an event. It is called Let's Talk. And I would like to provide you that opportunity. Actually, we have students from many different countries who have registered. And if you're interested in talking with students in Vietnam, in Indonesia, that's an opportunity for you. So I'm looking forward to maybe seeing some of you and having a conversation tomorrow as well.
Thank you so much, Lynn. We will now move into our keynote speech from Dr. Todd Allen, who is a faculty member at Kansai University in Japan. Kansai University is a partner university to Chatham, and we receive students from Kansai every year to study on a 10-month program. Dr. Todd James Allen completed his PhD at the University of Queensland, Australia, researching Japanese listening behavior. Currently, he's an associate professor at Kansai University, where he coordinates and teaches a number of English language skills courses, intercultural communication, and undergraduate and postgraduate academic writing. His research interests include Japanese English folk pragmatics, academic skills development, and he is currently investigating the effects of study abroad on intercultural communication development. So I will now pull up Todd's video. Actually, hold on. I made a mistake. I always forget on the share screen I have to do sound.
Hello, everyone. As the title suggests, I'm here today to talk to you about the challenges to study abroad during the current COVID-19 crisis. My name is Todd Allen, and I'm an associate professor from Kansai University. I also coordinate a number of our faculty's study abroad programs. In my position, I focus on our partners in Oceania, as well as the University of Alberta and Chatham University in North America. However, before I begin, I would also like to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Lin Fung for inviting me to give this keynote address. Currently, we are facing very uncertain times. However, through discussion and collaboration with each other around the world, I believe we'll be successful in managing and supporting the stakeholders of higher education, such as our students, teachers, and managers. Study abroad has had a very long history in Japan, both in terms of inbound and outbound programs. Researchers have shown that on a macro level, study abroad plays a major role in developing relationships between countries and, of course, people. In addition, researchers have also shown that on a micro level, students develop their language skills, learn about their host cultures, participate in cultural events, foster intercultural communicative competency, and increase their academic knowledge on various subjects. In Japan, these skills are seen as vital in order for young people to become globally competent citizens. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan aimed to double the number of students studying abroad to 120,000 by 2020. On their website, they make the following statement. There is a global trend in demand for talented individuals who can take an active part in the ever-globalizing world with valuable skills in foreign language and intercultural understanding. For this reason, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan encourages Japanese students to study abroad more than ever. This suggests that from a top-down approach, the Japanese government is encouraging and supporting various study abroad programs in various institutions, such as higher education. However, we find ourselves in very unprecedented times. We're all facing a very serious disease, first discovered in December 2019. As a result of this highly infectious disease, most countries locked down their borders by March 2020, with various levels of warnings for travelers issued, along with strict quarantine rules such as 14-day isolation and mandatory testing upon entry. Some countries were stricter than others, however. In Australia, for example, where I'm from and where we send our students, not only was the country's border closed, but also the state borders were closed, limiting inter-country travel. In addition, mandatory mask wearing was enforced by law, and fines were issued if people did not comply. Also, in some situations, people were only permitted to travel within 5 kilometers of their home. Schools, workplaces, and universities were also closed to mitigate the spread of the virus. This resulted in students and teachers being forced to engage with emergency remote teaching. This also impacted upon study abroad programs. As students from our university left Japan to participate in their respective programs in early 2020, they found themselves facing an uncertain situation. In a COVID-19 free context, study abroad can be difficult for some people, adjusting to new cultures and a new life abroad, without the familiar sights and sounds of their previous life to support them. Most of us who have studied abroad or have even moved to another country for a long period experience the various stages of culture shock. However, students in the current context needed to contend with culture shock while being isolated as they were studying remotely from home. This means that students are unable to have the usual support offered by universities and do not have the same level of support networks from their family and friends. In addition, students who are currently studying abroad at the moment indicated to us that COVID-19 impacted them in many ways. For example, some noted that they could not participate in things like sporting activities. They were unable to interact with local students, and their motivation for learning had decreased. This is why we rely on our study abroad partners. As a coordinator of study abroad programs, it is my responsibility to build strong, respectful, and resilient relationships with our partners so that in times of crises, we can rely on them to support our students. I am very happy to report that during this time, all of our partners have done this, including Chatham University, as they have offered additional support programs. They've been in contact with our students by utilizing various forms of communication tools, as well as reporting to us here in Japan on the status of our students day by day, week by week in certain situations. Studying online is also a challenge that our students are faced with. As classes were forced online, students needed to adapt to this new environment. A majority of our students were studying language skills courses, which can be challenging in an online environment. Usually, language skills are developed using a communicative approach to language teaching. However, sometimes this cannot be easily replicated online. However, many of our partners used various technologies in synchronous and asynchronous formats to facilitate effective learning for our students. Our partners were flexible and supportive, and gradually students adapted to this new normal. By moving to an online format, some students were also able to return to Japan, continuing to study online through our partners. While this was not the ideal situation, it meant that they could study at their desired university from the safety of their own homes here in Japan. While COVID-19 has been destructive in many ways, there have been some positive points that should be addressed. Students and teachers have developed skills that they normally would not have acquired. For example, digital literacy among Japanese students has increased, along with the continued pursuit of better teaching practices with the aid of technology. As most classes in Japan have moved back to a face-to-face format now, teachers are adopting more technology in the classroom to encourage engagement and motivation in their students, as well as reducing their own workloads. Students currently studying abroad also noted that while COVID-19 had negatively impacted upon their study abroad, they had gained new skills and uncovered new insights about themselves. For example, students noted that they had more time to study and focus on their language learning. They developed deeper relationships with their friends and learned features of language, such as casual messaging, that would not have necessarily been learned if they had not switched to online learning. Currently, COVID-19 is still impacting upon study abroad, with many countries still closed and unable to receive international students. However, universities have responded by offering classes online in a flexible way. That is, students in Japan attend classes at their chosen universities remotely. While this is not perfect, and students may not be able to experience an authentic study abroad experience, they are able to develop their language skills and intercultural communicative competence. At Kansai University, we're working on establishing new partnerships for our students. We are taking into consideration how governments are handling the current crisis, as well as the possibility of future travel should countries begin opening up in early to mid 2021. While we cannot wait for a vaccine that may never come, although currently we are almost there with a vaccine, study abroad programs need to continue. Universities around the world are working on alternative ways to provide international education and experience to students. While working remotely in Japan, students are able to interact with their teachers through a variety of applications such as Zoom, as well as experience life and culture of that particular country. There have been instances of cultural tours of tourist places where local guides wear cameras and microphones to give the audience an authentic experience. The guide is able to interact with both the audience as well as the people on the street. Such innovation needs to continue in this way. Study abroad coordinators and managers need to continue to develop their relationships, coming up with solutions in these very challenging times. Chatham University and Kansai University are doing these exact things. We are working together to mitigate the dangers of COVID-19 while trying to develop innovative programs for students to work in safe and engaging ways. This is by no means easy, but by adopting the principles we try to instill in our students, such as being critically engaged, being open-minded, being empathetic, being proactive, being innovative, and being collaborative, we can together manage this very challenging time. Our students depend on us. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to address you from Japan. I hope that this International Education Symposium is a success, and I look forward to visiting Chatham University when it is safe to do so. Thank you very much.
All right. I'd like to thank Dr. Allen for his reflective speech on study abroad. I think that he hit on many of the feelings that we have experienced this past year, both the challenges and the silver linings that I know as someone who works with international students, I've experienced, and I've heard from students similarly, you know, some downs, some ups. Overall, it's been a very interesting time, and I'm very glad that Dr. Allen was able to send us that message from Japan, even though he was not able to attend live due to the time zones. Up next, we will have live presentations from students. All students are current students at Chatham University, and they will present on their experiences studying abroad. Hannah and Walker are recipients of the Benter Scholarship, an experiential learning scholarship for Chatham students who study on a Chatham partner or exchange semester program. We will also hear from Hiroki, a current exchange student who is joining us from Kansai University. So first, I would like to hand it over to Hannah, who was, Hannah Thiel is a current Chatham student majoring in political science, and she studied abroad in Madrid, Spain during spring 2020. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Hannah.
And can I just share my screen? Is that the easiest way to do this? Okay,
Yes,
beautiful.
it should work.
Okay, I hope it does. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this was my time viajar en España, traveling around Spain, and you'll hear all about my wonderful experiences. So I was in Madrid, and it was definitely a lot of people called it like the city of color and life. This was at me in one of the parks there, Retiro de Bueno, and it's this massive park where people just go out and on little boats and they travel around, very community based. Sorry, I'm quickly just gonna move this right over. So Spain, even though I was in Madrid, and I definitely wanted to be in Madrid for the culture aspect of the European Union in those regards, but I definitely spent a lot of time, not enough, but traveling around different parts of Spain. So to the furthest to the left, right over here in the blue landscape picture, that was Toledo, and then Malaga was to the right. The bottom left was Valencia, and then I was on a train in the south of Spain where you see the rolling hills. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I really had from study abroad was how the food and the culture and the people were so unique to every place I went. However, they were such a community based that no matter where you were in Spain, people were there to take care of each other. No one was going to leave you high and dry. That was something very refreshing. I think coming from an American university, I'm not saying like, oh, it's individualist, but it's all individually about the student, while they're more focusing on the collective whole of everyone. So therefore, it just builds up a place that is really unique and just has a really nice understanding mindset. I have to say, all of these places were my top places outside of Madrid. Madrid was wonderful. It is definitely like if you've ever been to New York City or Chicago, very similar to a place like that. But when you stepped outside, I really truly felt as if I was in a green screen and the world was just changing beyond my eyes. And then the next slide, oh, let's see, sorry. So I know this is weird to talk about all about food, but I think food, one thing I really noticed in Spain was drinking and food was a really big way to bring community together. And I got to meet so many new people that way and really got to interact. So these are some of my favorite dishes while I was there. The bottom left picture of all the different pastries, Spain was very inclusive. I'm on a gluten-free diet, so they had a lot of bakeries that were very refreshing to everyone. The picture up top was my favorite breakfast place, just a very unique example. The coffee is something, I think coffee and liquor in Spain are very, you drink coffee in the morning and then a type of beer at night, and coffee literally was cheaper than water, €1, 50 cents a year. I mean, it just was incredible. So I definitely became a big coffee addict while in Spain, but I loved it. And you can see by the picture, it's not just black coffee. It was looks like a cappuccino frothiness of like wonderfulness. So it just was very much, we would study together around food. You would just go out, and food was a very cultural, community-based idea. And then I have to say, paella is also something that really has a lot of meaning to it. I stayed with host parents when I was in Madrid. My host mother, she would make paella a decent amount, but she said I had to go to the coast to really experience the authenticity of the food. So when I went to Valencia, I had one was like a rabbit version with veggies, and the other one was a Mediterranean type of dish. And that food made me cry. It was so wonderful and just so, once again, it's all about the experience about eating the food, not so much even digesting it. So that's why it just sort of brought all of it together. I ate a lot of meat. This picture in the middle up top is from my host parents. I ate a lot of meat and potatoes in a way. That's a very typical dish in Spain. Very salty, but also very delicious. And I have to say, like, altogether, yeah, it just taught me so much about community. And then, so finally, why I wanted to go to Spain was to study, European politics. And I have to say, within the European Union, it's a whole different, yes, we're like the United States of America, but here, if you were from, Germany, but in Spain, you were still considered a brother or sister because you were a part of the EU. And that was really showcased with people I met and just my sense of professors, excuse me. For my future plans, this really dug into the fact that I definitely want to have a career in international politics, and how when you look at it from the outsider's perspective, the United States doesn't necessarily have to be, this police force nation of enforcing rules and regulations in every country, but rather build an understanding in going back to that community aspect of intermixing values and ideas. So a job that most likely I would love to get into one day is working for the State Department. That would encompass going to grad school after I'm done with my time at Chatham. But it really just harnessing on, okay, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm passionate about. The picture on the left is a Plaza de Cibeles. It was one of the most beautiful plazas there. And then the picture on the right was one of the history museums that I spent a lot of time in, just developing an understanding more of where I was living and, okay, what everything meant. But yeah, that is all I have on my presentation. I will stop sharing my screen.
All right, thank you very much, Hannah, for your presentation. I enjoyed seeing the photos from Spain. Fantastic. Next, we're going to hop across the pond back to the United States, and I'm going to invite Hiroki Nakai to give his presentation. Hiroki is a visiting student from Kansai University in Japan. His major is foreign language, and the title of his presentation is An Eccentric 10-Month Challenge. So Hiroki, you can unmute yourself, and if you need to share your screen, you can do so as well.
Okay, I will share my screen.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Hiroki Nakai. Today, this time I'm going to talk about eccentric 10 months new challenges. So great looking forward to it, and how I could grow myself through this study abroad. That was special in a way. Just to let you know, this time I would like to talk about my experience of my study abroad, and also think everyone together like TED Talk. And in addition to those, I will make the most what I've learned in my course until now. There were two things that I've been trying to do my best since I came here. First of all, I'm going to talk about the improvement of my English skills that every international student does and face. To improve my English skills, I tried various devices in my way, even in the case of pandemic. Specifically, such as talk to myself in English and dare to use newly learned words while making a conversation with someone. In particular, what I made a commitment the most was writing journal. I have done it every day. Through writing my journal, it was not only improve my English skills, but also I realized the importance of persistence, that continue doing the same things like every day. Also, obviously, there were a bunch of difficult things while studying English. Like, every now and then, honestly, I was jealous of international students who could speak English more fluently than me. And especially Japanese students from same country. I know it was not good things, but when I was in Japan, usually I had been grown up in a competitive culture of everything. That's why it was challenging for me to cope with it. Honestly, I often got stressed out every time I compare myself to others. But I realized it was just insulting myself if I compare myself to others. Nowadays, I don't care about that anymore. And having experience like this, I felt I could grow myself. Secondly, by the way, did this year turn out at all how you expected? Absolutely no. Secondly, I have been actively engaged in various things. To give it an example, in fact, actually, I tried to a bunch of things such as attending the Zoom lecture with international students, like, with Philippines, Vietnam, and England, to discuss and make a project related to SUDG, Sustainable Development Goal. And it was held in my university, Kansai University, in Japan, and while using Zoom. And doing sports with local students and making my own food and stuff like that. The reason why I could become active was because of my roommate, who was my roommate, and I could become the reason why I could become active in everything was that my best friend, who was my roommate since I came here, and actually he invited even the students who didn't know him to enjoy and execute new things. Then, in fact, it was culture shock for me because in Japan I have never seen such a courageous people who can talk to someone without hesitation. But I was curious about his behavior and tried to read, actually. As a result of it, imitating his behavior broadened my horizon and can be a well-rounded person and to just have my stuff together. That's why I believe being with someone will absolutely turn into a great experience as I learned from the class during the summer semester. Consequently, when it comes to this year, I don't think it turns out the way anyone expected it. But even such a difficult situation, since I came to study abroad, I wanted to try several things. So even if most Japanese students and friends return back to Japan, I remain stay here. In fact, there were a bunch of difficult things to deal with a pandemic or COVID-19 and stuff like that. But I was able to experience a lot of things than you had expected. I hope those experiences will be treasured in my future, definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Haruki, for that reflective, personal, for that personal reflection on your study abroad experience. It does sound like through challenges, you've found the silver lining. Next, I'd like to welcome Walker Orner, who studied abroad in Angers, France during spring 2020. Walker is majoring in media arts with a concentration in filmmaking and graphic design. And he will be talking about studying abroad in a pandemic.
Hello. There we go. Cool. So yeah, my name is Walker. As Kathleen said, and yes, I was in Angers, France, this last spring, and yes, okay. So this is a question I got asked a lot, and I got asked a lot of versions of this question before I went and after I came back. Why are you going to France? And then when I was in France, why are you here? And when I got back, why did you go to France? Because I showed up in February in France without knowing any French. Basically, I took a semester of intro French in the fall before. But basically I showed up with very little French. And so there were three main reasons why I wanted to study abroad, and France specifically. And so the first reason was to see some beautiful places. This is the Chateau d'Angers, the main castle in Angers. And the second big reason was to eat really great food. These are some fresh strawberries and goat cheese from a local farmer's market. And the third reason was I wanted to learn French. It's not in my major. I don't have anything to do with language learning officially, but I wanted to challenge myself and do something new, and experience something new. And so when I stepped off the train in February, I met my host father, Alan, who knew about as much English as I knew of French, which we soon discovered, and we both realized that living together was going to be a sort of a challenge. And so my first month studying abroad, was I think very normal for what you consider a first month to look like. My head hurt for 2 weeks trying to understand French and being fully immersed every day, having rigorous language classes, and then coming home and having dinner with Alan and speaking in French then. But I really jumped into it and was really getting into the swing of things, and enjoying myself. And I got to do some of the usual things like go to Paris. I had a weekend with some friends in Paris, and we went and visited Mont Saint-Michel in the north, and everything was going great until the middle of March. And basically I had a decision to make. I was lucky enough that Dr. Feingold, I wrote a letter to Dr. Feingold asking if I could stay during the pandemic, if I signed a waiver and took responsibility for my own health, and he said that was possible. And basically I had to decide whether I wanted to go home or stay, and the idea of going home would be continuing to study French, but online, of course, in Pennsylvania, or staying in France and trying to continue that immersion while studying online. And I decided that I wanted to see this out and make the most of the gifts and the gifts of being able to travel that I'd been given. So I decided to stay. So this paper became a big part of my life after le confinement started. This was something you had to fill out every day if you wanted to go outside. We only got an hour outside every day, and you could only go a kilometer from your residence, and you had to say why you were going and where you're going and all this. We lived a little close to the country, so I could sneak off and spend a little more time and enjoy the nice French spring. And so in the left, you can see me reclining by the river. I was reading a book. That was a big part of my I mean, everyone had to figure out what to do for 3 months when there was nothing else to do. And so that was a big outlet in my life. Alan would send me to the farmer's market to get vegetables. And then near the end of the confinement, I was able to see some of the other students that stayed and friends that I'd made before it all happened. And this is my friend Sulgi from South Korea, and she taught me how to make some Korean food. And so basically that semester wasn't what I expected at all. It wasn't optimal and for anyone, but some things that came out of it, good things that came out of it, were that my French really, really improved. I mean, that's not saying much because it was hardly anything to begin with, but conversationally, I was and I am still very proficient. And because every day I have rigorous language courses, and then Alan and I would have meals together and talk about current events and what was happening in our country and in France. And so sticking with that immersion and deciding to try to make the most of a tricky situation really paid off. And I had an amazing semester, even though it wasn't quite what I expected. And so I think that any students thinking about studying abroad in the future when it's more possible, I really recommend it. Getting out of your comfort zone and doing something new and challenging yourself can really pay off. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Walker. I think you did have a very unique experience during your time abroad, especially staying in confinement. I know France had much different rules than we had here in the United States. We do have some presentations from students who were not able to attend at this time, either due to class or time zones. And so I will now show you a presentation from Miku Nishi. Miku is also a student from Kansai University who has been studying at Chatham University. She is also in the foreign language program at Kansai University. So let me get to her video.
Hello everyone, I'm Miku. I'm from Japan and I've been studying abroad at Chatham since this February. And today I'll share important lessons I drew from studying abroad during the pandemic. The title of the presentation is How I Saw the Opportunity in This Difficult Time. In this February, I went to the US for studying abroad. I was very excited to visit there because I've been interested in the US culture since I was in junior high school. I was very looking forward to experience a lot of new things, such as making friends with local people. However, the pandemic of COVID-19 prevented me from experiencing such normal things that people studying abroad usually can. When news spread widely, I was very reluctant and unwilling to do anything. But I thought I had to change something. So first, I tried to call my family and friends. I like to talk with them generally, so I could enjoy talking. They gave me a lot of encouragement, so I could feel more relaxed, and also I feel energy and motivated. Then I cooked some food by myself. It was actually good because it was healthy and boosted my happiness. I took pictures of some flowers in the town and enjoyed sharing them with my friends from Vietnam. I saw these beautiful flowers at Chatham. It was helpful not only for relieving my stress, but also for focusing on beautiful things around me. And then also I sometimes met Hinayo. We are from Kansai University and we've been studying abroad in this February, and we often talk. And we cooked our lunch or dinner together after the classes and talked a lot. This picture shows curry rice and salmon saute and with spinach and mushroom that we cooked. We could share our feelings easily because we were in the same situation. It helped me to relieve my stress. So, in summary, I learned 3 important key lessons. First, it's very important to connect with people. Thanks to my family, friends, teachers, and other people around me, I could feel even better than starting the pandemic. In addition, I've learned to pay attention to eating healthy and having good sleep. I've found that these habits are beneficial for my health. I also learned from the Science of Happiness course we took in the summer that these are also important for living a happy life. I could see opportunities to think about these things in this situation. In conclusion, these are the 3 lessons that I've learned from studying abroad during the pandemic and that I hope to take with me into the future. I like to end with a quote by Winston Churchill. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. Thank you.
Yes, I think that also was a great reflection on different challenges that students have had during their times abroad. Those were all of the, oh, sorry. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. Ads from YouTube. Keep going. Okay. So again, those were very reflective. Those were all of the presentations that we are showing during this symposium from students. And because of the number of participants we have here, we now have a time to go into a discussion. And so I would like to encourage everyone to unmute themselves, and we will discuss, I guess, what we've learned from students. Feel free to ask questions. I know I have some great questions that I wrote down during the presentations that I'd love to hear from Hannah, from Walker, from Hiroki. So now we have some time set aside to discuss. So the first question I have for anyone, feel free to answer, is what unexpected experience during your time abroad has had the greatest positive impact for you? So again, what unexpected experience had the greatest positive impact?
Is it okay if I chime in?
Oh, go.
I think my host parents, and I know Walker alluded to this as well, not knowing any English, I thought they would know a little bit, but they knew none, really made me understand Spanish and get immersed so quickly into it. So it really helped me when I was in my university classes, and also just trying to communicate with also other Nimbriha. I studied at Nimbriha University in Madrid, so other students there as well. So that was a very unexpected thing that I did not know going into it, but it turned out to be very beneficial in the long run.
Thank you.
Mine similar to Hannah's. I didn't speak a lot of French before the COVID happened. Like I would speak French in class, but I had a lot of English speaking friends that I spent a lot of time with my first month. And as soon as everyone else left, it was just me and Alan. And so all of our meals we'd speak in French. And so basically like not being able to socialize and the whole quarantine really improved my French because I had the only person I could talk to spoke French. So that was unexpected, but very beneficial.
Does anyone else have questions? Feel free, this is discussion time.
I'm wondering how close Hannah and Walker have remained with their host parents. Are those relationships still strong?
I can go. Alan and I text weekly. He's been keeping up on the election and filling me in on the French opinions. And so we during the whole quarantine, we were the only people that really talked to each other, even because of the whole keeping the bubble small. So yeah, we got really close, and I'd love to visit him again sometime next time I'm in France.
Yeah, I don't text weekly, but we send emails about once every 2 weeks. They're about 85, 88 years old, so a little harder on the technology aspect. But when I had to leave unexpectedly, I mean, my host mother was sobbing and she just saying like, "Oh, you're like a granddaughter." So hopefully one day, definitely get to go back and visit them again.
That's great. Maybe they would feel more comfortable with paper letters, handwritten letters.
I was thinking about that. That's a very good idea.
They would probably love that. I have friends that are younger than me and they do that. And I didn't know if that was a millennial thing, but it sounds great to me.
Yeah, no, that's a very good idea. Thank you.
Cards, yeah.
And I'll just chime in. I do encourage you to keep up those connections. I'm still in contact with my host family from when I studied abroad in university. My host sister just gave birth to her third daughter last week. And so it's been really exciting to, contact my mama and papa Yamada and congratulate them on their grandchild. So lifelong friendships can definitely form during a study abroad experience.
Yeah, and I will just chime in as well. Those relationships are really a gift. I mean, you've been really lucky to have this time abroad and in such close contact in such a challenging time, especially Walker with just the two of you. But yeah, I would definitely encourage you to keep up those contacts as well.
I have another question. How do you guys, and Hiroki too, how do you guys plan on maintaining your language proficiency when you return home? How have you been doing that? Like Hannah, maybe Hannah first.
Yeah, so I actually, this was my first semester actually not taking a Spanish course at Chatham. However, I'm taking an in-depth like grammar and composition class next semester and then classes at Pitt. So really, I think to immerse myself, and then back home, I'm from Michigan. We have a large Latinx population, and to really utilize Spanish is a lot different from like Latin American Spanish, but however, to immerse myself with my community and just be vulnerable and allow those connections to happen, because I learn from people, and that's the best way to, I think, just keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of me, during pandemic, originally I'm not good at speaking in English, so anyway, and also I didn't have a roommate then, so I just talked to myself in English.
No. Hiroki, your English is great. Your English is so good.
I've been able to keep up a bit through I'm taking intermediate French this semester, and just texting Alan and some other French friends I've met, I've kept in contact with, has been really good. And my girlfriend's actually French in Pittsburgh. I don't know, not someone I met over there, and so we speak in French a bit too.
That's yeah. There's something called Meetup, that website where you can join different groups, you know, like language groups, and maybe that wouldn't work right now with COVID, but I do see them pop up continually for different languages. Maybe, and Meetup is all over the world. Maybe that's one way, just talking with people briefly, virtually, or during a hike, you know, in the language you're trying to learn.
Oh, I have a question to Hannah and Luca. Was there a culture shock between America and French and Spain?
Yeah, culture.
That was actually one of Alan and I's favorite conversation topics. We ran out of things to talk about really fast, but one thing we could always talk about is like, what do you do in France for this, and what do you do in the United States for this? And food was, I mean, obviously a culture shock. Like, food is so valued in France, and like the quality of food, and so like I ate better that semester than I have ever in my life. And so yeah, food, just, yeah, I mean, it's the cliche, but like everything's old and beautiful and a museum, and so yeah, it's a different world.
I was noticing one big thing is the way people were to dress. Americans would stick out like a sore thumb. There were these two American boys who'd always wear sweatpants and get sent home by our professors for not being like presentable. So that was something that was very interesting. And then one day also, I remember stretching in public, and people, I can understand Spanish decently, but they were like, what the heck is this person doing, you know, stretching and just being what we usually do in America. So that was a little bit of a culture shock. And then also the way people just act on the metro, like personal space is not a thing in Spain, or at least in Madrid. So that was something that I also noticed. But Hiroki, I just wanted to let you know too, if you ever needed any resources of people to talk to, I know I'll speak on behalf of Walker, but we're here to always, like, if you just need an extra friend or someone to interact with during these times, just to let you know.
Thank you. It's so funny for me to hear it.
So I have a question to all of you. Do you see the potential of learning to collaborate across borders? I mean, for me, maybe as a professional, I do that because I have colleagues from all over the world and I do research with them as well. But due to COVID-19, maybe we are pushed to do it more. Do you feel like there are projects that you can work on with people from other countries, things that you can collaborate on moving into the future?
Yeah, so I'm graduating next year, or yeah, next spring, and I'm going to start looking for a job. And it's interesting to think about how COVID has made me think like I could get a job anywhere and just work from home. And so I haven't thought a lot about looking internationally for work. I'm a media arts major, and so I do a lot of creative work, and so. But there's definitely a possibility for me to look. I'd love to work with someone from France on something creative. So I have no definite plans at the moment, but it's definitely a possibility.
Maybe the key is to keep up those relationships, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know for me as well, I graduate next December and I would love to go, like have the opportunity, I think this further along my yearning to go into the Peace Corps, an organization similar to that, just to really give back in a way and not have this white saviorism complex, but more like implement sustainable resources in other countries to help them flourish with what they have. So a continuation of that. Yeah, we'll see where the future holds though.
Yeah. Keep engaging internationally, right?
So along those same lines, so a lot of the skills that all of you have built through study abroad are exactly the skills that you're going to need to be in the global workplace that we all are living in now. So like Lynn said, you know, we're working across borders more and more, and all of the skills that you've developed, intercultural communication, problem solving, adapting, these are all the skills that you can use as you move into that professional phase of your life. And if you think about some of the big problems that we're all facing right now, so you know, we have a global pandemic, we have problems with racism around the world, and very much so here in the US. We have inequities, we have climate change. These are all global problems, and they're all things that we need people like you all who have these skills to help us solve. So I really encourage you to think big, to really use everything that you've learned and help us.
Yeah, and from my experience, so I come from Vietnam originally, and I have been in the US for about 15 years now. And the US turned me into US centric, but now I'm trying to reach back to my country in Vietnam. And it always starts with a few relationships that I have. And then if you, I am helping Vietnam with some English language instruction and all those things. So just reflecting right now, I feel like those relationships may be the key for us to start doing something if we want to grow influence and find opportunities in another country.
Yeah, I was going to tell Hannah, you were talking about Peace Corps. You can also look into international internships, you know, where it's like a long-term investment where you're giving your time and energy to help something that you believe in that could, you know, evolve into something bigger for yourself, where you can have more responsibilities and help maintain an area or some sector that you want to protect.
So just a thought, Hiroki, and maybe other Kansai students, I feel like we have to bring you back at some point to experience the normal study abroad experience. So when you're back to Kansai, maybe we can think about doing a short-term program or inviting you back in some way. I feel like you need to have a kind of a normal experience in a normal circumstance, but it's just a weird thought. Maybe it will happen. What do you think, Hiroki?
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe also, but I have not changed. I want to change my experience into a great opportunity, to become a good adult, stuff like that. Yeah.
And I do want to put a shameless plug in because we mentioned the Peace Corps. There are many international programs that are out there that develop global connections and work towards a more equitable future. So the United States, of course, has the Peace Corps. We also have the Fulbright program, which are, I think, two of the top programs that are out there. But they're not the only ones in the world. Many countries have their own programs where they would send their citizens abroad to learn from others or to study or to engage in research. Hiroki, I know that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs does have programs in Japan that sends Japanese out into the world. So if after your studies you want to continue your global education, I do recommend, checking into those programs. I myself went and taught in Japan for 3 years through a Japanese program. And so that experience led me into my career that I am with today. And so I really highly recommend, if you want to be engaged and you want to learn from others and become a more global citizen, find those programs. They do exist. Sometimes they take a little bit of research, but I would highly encourage you to explore those options.
Yeah, thank you. Basically, in Japan, there were a lot of global events. So if you can recommend to it, I wanna participate in it. Yeah.
Karen, Dr. Karen Kingsbury is here.
Yes. Thank you so much, Karen, for joining us. We've gone through presentations already, but if you have any questions, we have 3 of our presenters who studied in Madrid, Angers, France, and also in the US. Right now, we're just doing discussion.
Well, thank you. And I apologize I wasn't able to come earlier due to other events, but I'm here really just to lend my support and my enthusiasm for international study of all kinds. I think that our current conditions make it challenging in ways that we haven't encountered in the recent past, but that's no reason to shrink from those challenges. And I'm so happy that you are here at this event.
Thank you so much, Karen. I have one final question for our student attendees. What do you think study abroad, whether outside of the United States or coming to the United States, will look like post-COVID pandemic?
I think it's never going to look the same, but I think in a way that's a healthy thing, because the world is always evolving and changing, and therefore societies and people change. I think we will get back to a point where students will be able to have the opportunities that they did have before, but it will definitely be forever changing and therefore different, I guess. I know it's open-ended, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll ever be what so after my semester I was like, wow, I'd love to read, I do a real one, where I can go to class in person every day. And I was talking to a friend who is doing a second one, and France just went back into the confinement. So I think it's always going to be different, but the immersion for me for language learning was key, and so I think that's still really possible and beneficial. And I think within reason, it is possible to travel with the proper procedures, and so I think that's still very important, even if it won't look the exact same.
I think my study abroad was so special in a way. Sometimes I got stressed out, but by meeting new people and various country people, actually I could broaden my horizon. So it is the best. I think it was the best incident that I had ever had.
Thank you. Does anyone else have questions for the group? Okay, so 2 things final. We have a poll that will appear on your screen to vote for your favorite presentation. So please feel free to mark your favorite presentation. This is anonymous, so you don't have to worry that people will see who you're voting for.
Just vote for one, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, just give it a couple more seconds. And then the top 2 presentations will receive a gift card from the Office of International Affairs, and we will contact you later to work out the details of that. Okay. I think everyone has voted. Right, so I will be sharing the results so that you can see. So congratulations, Hiroki and Walker, on your presentations, but honestly, congratulations all of you, and thank you so much for presenting at our International Education Week Symposium. I hope you've learned from each other about the challenges and the successes of studying both in the United States and outside of the US. I know that this year is constantly throwing us new things, and we are still adapting and moving onward. I do want to highlight 2 more events that are taking place for International Education Week. I will put the links in the chat. Tomorrow morning, as Dr. Fung said, we will be hosting a Let's Talk discussion session. You can register for that in the chat. It's at 9 a.m. and I know that's early for a Friday, but we hope that we can get some of our international attendees from Asia to join in for the meeting. We also will be promoting the Global Focus event tomorrow, which is on the topic of Cyprus and music, and will be presented by Dr. Kenneth Smith from the University of Nicosia in Cyprus. So that is the second link that just went into the chat. The Global Focus is a program offered by Chatham University that focuses on a theme every year. And throughout that year, we highlight different programming and activities to educate our community surrounding that theme. The 2020-2021 academic year, our theme is Cyprus, and the University of Nicosia is one of our partners located there. And so I do recommend, if you can't attend tomorrow's session on Cyprus and music, check my happenings for the list of other upcoming activities and events. Again, I would like to thank everybody for attending this symposium and making it a success, and thank our presenters very much for their wonderful and reflective presentations.
All the talks were fantastic. Thank you all. It just makes me wish I could travel again, and made me feel free, actually, seeing how you guys have been around the world and learning things and reflecting. It was really, truly wonderful. I'm really happy right now, just feeling good. Thank you all.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
For the opportunity to go to Spain.
Very appreciated. Thank you.
So this concludes our International Week Symposium on the theme of challenges in 2020. Again, thank you all for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and can enjoy the brief glimpse of sunlight that we've got today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.